Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're going to be talking about minimalism and frugality and how all this kind of pairs together to help you with your personal finance and how it's helped me. But instead of focusing on these buzzwords like minimalism, frugality, financial independence, all that stuff, I'd rather just zero in on two good examples of what I do and what other people could easily do as well, and actually show what the results would look like. And I've gotten these results personally, but to show you exactly what that would look like. And I did the math and I've gone through this whole thing. So I think this is going to be very, very beneficial. But just before we dive into all of this, minimalism and frugality and financial independence and all this good stuff, again, it really just comes back down to, do you want to prepare for your future? Are you willing to sacrifice anything in your present today to prepare for that? And then actually taking up those practices, because it seems all very, far-fetched, or it seems weird to get rid of a bunch of things because that's going to make you rich. A lot of these concepts are very vague, and until you really jump in and start doing it yourself, it's really hard to grasp the whole thing, because it all kind of flows in together. It's like once you start personal finance, you start budgeting, it all kind of adds up together into this great personal financial framework, I guess I would say. But to actually get people into it, they have to really see the benefit. So I'm going to go and zero in on these two examples. But just before that, a word from our sponsor today. A big thank you and shout out to my sponsors at Cake Wallet, which is an open source, non-custodial Bitcoin and Monero wallet that also has a built-in exchange. It's available on iOS and Android. Thanks again to my sponsor, and now let's just jump right in. So the first example that I have for you guys, and I'm going to be referring to my notes a little bit here just because I have all the math, but it's related to whether or not you have a car. Now, I know I've drilled on for this so long, but now I actually got the math, and I did all this to see exactly how much money that you could make by not having a car, or rather save and then invest, and what you would end up with. So I found out that the average fees being paid monthly in Ontario, where I live in Canada, is $955 Canadian, and this covers insurance, gas, maintenance, administrative fees, your car payments, all that stuff. Everything that you could think of, parking, everything that's related to owning and using a car. The average cost in Ontario is $955 a month. Over the year, that totals to $11,460. Now, first off, I'll say, if you were investing $955 a month into Bitcoin over the last 5 years, you would have more than $1 million today. So there's that. But if you were going to do something a little more reasonable, a little more traditional, if you were putting all of that money every month into dividend stocks, for example, because I prefer dividend stocks over growth stocks, but say you were doing that, and that was paying you an average dividend yield of 5%, just meaning that whatever stock that you're invested in, 5% of whatever it's worth and what they're paying out is what you will receive in dividends, whether it's monthly dividends or quarterly or whatever it happens to be, a 5% yield. Now, if you focus on stocks that are paying you monthly and you're compounding that interest, so essentially every time you receive the payment, you are then reinvesting those dividends into buying more stocks to then get more dividends to then buy more. And it compounds over time. So it becomes more effective as time goes on, because you're getting more and more and more, and it's compounding. So compounding interest is a very powerful financial tool. But after 1 year, you would have earned $364, which isn't crazy, but you'd have 11,800 or whatever it is. I didn't calculate that number. So that's not substantial, right? But you keep doing this month over month over month. And year 5, you've now earned over $8,000 in dividends. $8,000, right? And your investment has grown to $66,000. After 10 years, you would have earned $35,000 and your portfolio value would be worth over $150,000. The reason that this is so, impactful is that this is going to set you up to essentially pay for a car in the future. So the interesting thing here is that after 10 years, and I didn't calculate this part, so let me just quickly do that. After 10 years, if you have $150,000 paying you 5% every year, that's $7,500 a year. That is almost covering all of those fees. But I mean, assuming you get a decent, car loan and all that stuff, that might even cover it. Definitely by, year 12 or 13 or whatever, you probably are covering all of your fees. But the point here is that by delaying gratification, by sacrificing the convenience of a car, of that luxury, by focusing all of those savings into investing, you can actually set yourself up to, in 10, 12 years' time, buying a car passively and paying for all of those fees passively with the money that you've set aside saving by just not owning a car. The big thing here is that this is just from that. I mean, if you're also investing money, if you're also saving money elsewhere, you will have just a ridiculous amount of money saved up that will be able to pay for various expenses in your life. The whole point for me of minimalism and frugality and financial independence is to get enough money paying me passively to cover my lifestyle, to cover these car payments, to cover my utilities, to cover my rent. I mean, I've not had a car ever so that I could do this, because I thought about this a long time ago when I was originally going to get a car, and I thought it would make a lot more sense for me to just invest in my business and build my business. And over time, I've gotten my business to where I want it to be, and I'm making a decent amount of money. So now, 2 years ago, when I really started to focus on investing in stocks and assets and cryptocurrency, it really took off. And I mean, now I'm at over $230,000 net worth in just 2 years, when I had $5,000 2 years ago. So all this saving, all this stuff that I've been doing, it made such a big impact. And I wanted to first, affirm that I am doing this. It is possible. It has worked out amazingly for me for the amount of money that I've been able to invest and appreciate in this time. But also just looking at the data, you would have a mass of wealth in 10 years. And say you started at 20 and you ended at 30, being 30 and then getting a car is definitely going to not be, fun, in your 20s being the guy who doesn't have a car, but then you're the guy in your 30s who's well off, wealthy, able to pay for a car, do what you want, live off of passive income. Again, you wouldn't be able to do that with just this car scenario, but if you did this with a car, if you did this with other things, if you also just took any of your excess funds and invested that as well, it's amazing what you can amass in a short amount of time. So that is the, car scenario. The other scenario that I wanted to zoom in on was clothing, because this is another huge expense for people. Apparently, the average expense for people in Ontario, again, I'm going to keep going back to my local area, it's about $161 a month on clothing, with middle-aged people spending about $50 more, so $211 a month. Now, in total, if you were doing the max, for example, that would be $2,532 a year. While this is significantly smaller than the car example, another $2,000 is going to make a difference year after year after year, because in that 10-year span, you'd have more than $20,000 $23,000 just from saving it, let alone, again, investing and doing all that other stuff. So if you just paired these both together, I think you would have enough money after 10 years on average to afford paying for all of the expenses of your car and affording that lifestyle. So obviously people need clothes, right? But do you need to get a lot of new clothes? No. You only need to replace clothes if you need to replace clothes. You don't need new clothes, because I guarantee if you look, most people, they look in their closet and they've got stuff that they haven't worn or whatever it happens to be. And then B is buying cheap clothes when you do need to buy new clothes. So buying less clothes and buying cheap clothes. In my example here, you can actually go back and look in the past 45, 50 episodes or so. I've only been wearing like free crypto t-shirts or a black V-neck or crew neck or whatever it's called t-shirt that I got from H&M and as well as from Amazon. The H&M ones were about $7 and the Amazon ones were only $2.50 a piece. The Amazon ones are lower quality, so I don't wear them as often, more for, working out or whatever. And the $7 ones are like my premium shirts. The point is though, and you can wait for sales. You should buy off season for clothing. But the reason that I buy such cheap shirts and I always wear like the same stuff is again, to save money, because you don't need a $100 OVO shirt just for the brand recognition, and to simplify things. Minimalism, right? This is minimalism meeting with frugality. Frugality is buying less and buying cheaper shirts. And minimalism is simplifying the wardrobe and not really expanding or buying more, and actually more so even shrinking it down to just what I need. And when those two meet together, you're saving money and you're changing your spending habits, which is largely tied together. But again, these are two very, very practical things that will save you money. The thing is, most people are not willing to sacrifice the luxuries and comforts in their life to be able to set themselves up for great financial success, in the future. And that's a problem, because you're not going to be able to do any of this stuff if you're too focused on consumerism or, impressing the people around you. The two biggest hurdles, I would say, are people say, oh, you need a car, there's no way to get around it, creating, impenetrable excuses that are just, there's no way getting around it, that's it. Well, there's many, many, many people who do not have cars or opt out of owning a car. So clearly we know that's not necessarily true. What they really mean to say is, I am not willing to go without the convenience and luxury of owning a car. And I've talked about this before in my sensory adaptation video. But you get used to things. You get used to it. So I'm not really concerned that I don't have a car or that I don't wear like really expensive clothing. The only people that are generally concerned about that are people who are trying to impress other people. The problem is that the people who you impress are not people who are going to better your life financially, or improve, help you get more success, or further your career, or just help you do better in life. People who appreciate your expensive car and shirt are just, your friends or your family or some girl you're trying to impress. But the point is that the people that you're spending all this money to try to impress are the other broke people doing the same thing. None of these people are impressing rich people. Or, you go to a job for an interview, they're not impressed by the fact that you have a Lamborghini. In fact, if you went to a $60,000 salary job and you showed up wearing a $10,000 suit and you had a Lamborghini, they wouldn't hire you because they would think that A, you're overqualified, or B, you're like a trust fund kid and you're not really going to work very hard because you have millions of dollars. So why would you even care to work hard for $60,000 a year? Point is, though, the stuff or the results that most people get from living the luxurious life and just spending everything and indulging in consumerism, not much, right? The results are not going to further your life really at all. The opposite is also the opposite. If you do not indulge in consumerism, the results for your success, your future, your career, whatever, are all going to exponentially increase. Because if you have $150,000, or if you have some nice clothes and a car, I'm sure most people would opt into $150,000, but then they'd probably buy the car and the clothes with the $150,000. So the issue is just seeing what you can actually do with that money. You should look at $150,000 and see $7,500 passive income coming my way every year. That's what you should see. It should be more focused on the income source that you're being able to build, setting yourself up for the future, rather than it is focused on, just the vanity. So that is it for today. I wanted to just kind of go through this example and share how much money you could have and the life that you could possibly lead if you were willing to sacrifice and forego certain luxuries in your life and delay that gratification. Because I know this is true, because today I could buy almost any luxurious car within reason outright, right? Like if it's less than $200,000, I could buy that car outright if I wanted to. But I don't want to, because I know what that would mean for my future income. It would be going down, and I would be buying a liability, not an asset. You should focus on assets. You should focus on growing your passive income and your wealth as a whole. And the only way that you can really do that, especially if you're struggling to make more money, is to cut back in various places. And a car and clothing are two expenses that most people obviously have, and it's probably one of your higher expenses. This is something to consider. Again, I know most people are not going to be willing to do these things, but know what is possible and know what you're giving up. I think that's the most important thing. Know that you're giving up $150,000 in 10 years by having a car. As long as you know and you're aware and you're mindful, and you still think that having the car is a better trade than $150,000 in 10 years, then you're good. If you don't think that's a good trade or a fair deal, then you should be saving that money and investing it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Did this change your mind, perhaps? Are you maybe going to try to save more money? Whether it's cars and clothes or anything else, I would love to hear how you guys are saving money today, and how you're practicing minimalism, frugality, and what is your journey currently on the way to financial independence and all that good stuff. Let me know in the comments below. So thank you so much for watching. If you did watch to the very end, I appreciate it. You can let me know that you did by commenting #1ham in the comments below. And that way I know you watched the full video, and I really do appreciate it. Anyways, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, signing off. Cheers.